was telling me during the break that she has something phenomenal that she wrote that she wants to share with me. To give me the backstory and then go right ahead
into it. So one of the things that I do on my page, for those of you who are not on my Instagram page, please get into queendom.blog and follow me. And I'm a fan of fanfic. And for those who don't know what fanfic is, it's when you take a celebrity, it doesn't matter if it's in the movies or the music or politics, and you imagineer them in a romantic scene or
You're
romantic
imagining
setting.
that he's your person.
Exactly. And the reason why I like to write these things is because sometimes there are things that have happened to me and I thought, oh, this is really beautiful. So simple and so beautiful. But also because I like to just remove that whole air of celebridom. You know, they, at the end of the day, they are men and women just like you. They just make lots more money than you do. So I can't remember what it was that I watched, but I had watched a movie with Samuel L. Jackson in it. And I will write about everyone. I wrote once about Herr Derek. You remember Derek, the detective?
Yes.
I romanticized
With his
him.
eyes.
With his bug under the eyes.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, let me tell
I
you.
love his height.
Was it
wanted-
Derek?
Yeah.
Derek.
That guy.
Yeah.
Derek.
With that,
Derek.
yeah,
Yes,
exactly.
yes, yes,
Him.
yes.
I wanted him to touch me there.
Oh,
But
God.
I know. But there you go. So I was watching something with Samuel L. Jackson, and so I wrote a little fanfic. So it's just a short story or long story where you just imagine them in a particular scene.
Yes.
Can I read it for you?
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
go
Go
ahead.
right ahead.
Okay.
I'm interested. I want to see it.
Samuel L. Jackson looks like the kind of lover who likes to do beep that you had forgotten was sexy. He likes to do things like feed you. But he wouldn't just feed you. He'd be deliberate about it. First, he'd pick you up and place you on the counter as if you were a little girl. Very quickly and very confidently, he would place his hands under your arms and plonk you on the counter as if you weighed nothing. And because he knows you'd put up a resistance, making some remarks about how he shouldn't be lifting heavy objects, he would ignore you. Now, this is not something that he cared to argue about, and he always would shut down that argument. And he'd say, don't you talk about my girl like that. She's thick, thickety thick, and that's what I want. And then, although he turns his back to you,
Yes. Move back from the mic.
and then, although he turns his back to you, you can hear a smile in his voice as he changes the topic and he asks you to tell him about your day. He turns around from the kitchen sink and he faces you and he crosses his feet at the ankle and he peels an orange. Just an orange, a local orange. Those organic ones from Makueni. You know those ones that are rust-colored, kind of
Yes,
brown?
yeah.
Yes, one of those oranges. And he's slowly peeling it by hand as he listens to you. He's never taking his eyes off you, only interrupting you and your chatter with low, Is that right, babe? Yes. What the hell? That MF. And then, having peeled enough oranges because, you had a lot to say, he would bring the bowl and place it on the counter next to you. And then he'd smack your hand away because, you're trying to reach one for yourself. He's like, He'd stand right in front of you and he would center himself, snugly between your legs. And then he'd take your chubby hands and kiss both your palms. And then he'd kiss your forehead. And then he'd take one orange, pulling each segment apart. He'd place it in your mouth.
Segment, Eric.
Segment. He'd place it in your mouth so that you could bite half of it, and then he could bite
the other half.
The other half. His hand never leaving the back of your knee. His right hand always feeding you. And then, after the last piece has been shared, he'd pluck you off the counter and he'd stand you in front of him. Even if you only reach like his chest. And even though there's no one else in the room, he'd whisper to you, come on, baby girl. Let's go and eat somewhere. And you would take his hand and say, yes, daddy.
Of course, Zaddy.
Tell me you don't have oranges.
Tell me you don't have kitchen counters. You don't have tables.
Good Lord, that's
Sometimes
amazing.
you do not
like that
need
little story?
That's
that
amazing.
expensive things to make the gesture.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think there's something very beautiful about
You should do poetry.
focusing a girl. Focusing on your lover and doing and romanticizing things that are not necessarily romantic.
Yes.
And that was one example of that because I feel like guys are always like, oh, it's too much, it's expensive, I don't have this card. But I'm like, yes, but what do you have that's near you? Do you have local oranges? Are they 50 bob? How about